That's amazing.
Oh yeah, my son found it out and said I should use this and I should not use anything else. So I'm
Yeah.
just sticking with that.
Okay, let's start then. So today's July 1st. This is Service Binding Operator Developer Meetings weekly call, and we have a couple of agenda today to discuss. Okay, this is the first one from Predrag, that is about implementation issues with JSON path in application resource mapping. Yeah. So
Would you like
Predrag,
to share your screen, simply
oh
that
yeah,
we
yeah,
can
sure.
talk through?
Yeah. 1 second. Yeah. So yeah. In fact, I also made some attempt to implement that in my side project, and I found it not working. Yeah. Anyway, please go ahead, Predrag.
Well, the just wanna like stumble across this just recently last week, and even like Scott from VMware asked me if we have implemented that yet, and because he didn't as well, like and then I looked closely on that. But if you wanna just go to the link
Yeah.
and
One
the
second. 1 second. Let me just take a link. Okay, this is sharing. I'll put it here. Okay, you want to take this spec link, right?
yeah, and what is the other link? It's your private
This is
implementation.
something the issues that I observed, and I reported all of them in the, you know, I mean, in the repo already. There are three issues, one PR, and there is one challenge I'm facing. So I don't know the solution.
Oh, yeah, so like as I mentioned, so the idea in that application resource mapping is so the custom services which are not deployment, like regular Kubernetes deployment, where we know location of various things where we need to inject so the secret and to inject the environmental variables. For some custom resources, for applications which are backed by custom resources, the idea is that we make this kind of process flexible and describe locations which will be touched by the operator. But the major problem I see here is the tooling, or like the kind of syntax we want to use for describing those locations. And the spec proposed to use JSON path for that. Now, JSON path is a great thing it's a query language, and it's a great thing for filtering result out of some set of resources in the fields. But JSON path, it was never meant to be a location tool or a language which will insert values into some destinations.
Yeah,
And
that's the exact thing I
therefore,
came across. Yeah.
right, and therefore, I mean, any available JSON path implementation, or like in the wild, in the public, in the open source, nobody supports that. Which means that if we really want to go on that route and really keep that having a JSON path as a like a language to express our locations, we would need to write our own JSON path implementation from the scratch, no matter what service binding implementation. And that's the first thing, because then you are suddenly in the business of making and managing a JSON path parser, which is not really the focus of now. So it will be way better if service binding implementation uses some good JSON path implementation and really stay out of that business. And so JSON path is powerful to like filter out things, but I really doubt that we need this kind of power in real life. And I'm just kind of thinking, in order to come up with some simpler mechanism, and they're already available in JSON like world. There are other mechanisms to locate your fields. So JSON pointer is one of them. Customize tool use JSON pointer. The JSON pointer is not so powerful as the JSON path, but I would question the like that we are actually using way bigger hammer than needed for this purpose. So that's kind of my thought. I just want to verify with you.
Yeah.
And if we wanna go like propose something to the spec to like modify that part, to be honest, like the way how this spec part is written, like that we kind of expect to have like multiple containers that we want to address all containers there and so on. I'm not really sure if this is verified against some real use cases, but I would
Yeah,
like to.
I'll come to that
I
point.
would
Yeah.
like to propose that I would like to kind of we start thinking about changing the syntax we use for locating relevant fields in the application resource. That's the kind of thing. I don't have
Yeah.
any particular proposal in mind, but like JSON pointer is some kind of standard. We can come up with some custom standard, but I would first try to use something which is available, well established and known, and there are implementations already for that before we come up with some our own approach on that.
Yeah. In fact, in the last meeting, I mentioned the same. Actually, why we can't simply use a dot separated values instead of a JSON path. But I guess somebody was mentioned some use cases which I was not fully convinced. That was there in the last agenda somewhere. Yeah. We don't need it. Would dot delimited paths would be enough? But the response was like there were there was some requirement. I don't remember the exact details. Anyway, I agree with you regarding this one. So I thought it is, but this problem that you pointed out, that JSON, path is not a good way to set the values, but it's good for querying, right? But do you have any supporting document or anything that we could point to? Because I thought it is my challenge and I couldn't find a way. That's why I put it like a challenge. I haven't created issues, but I have. You can see that I created 3 issues and 1 PR, other issues which is in this same application resource mapping. But this one I thought it is I couldn't figure out how to do it. But looks like you are valid after thinking more. So.
I don't have any document to back up. I just wanted to throw like an idea here in the meeting before we kind of and decide how we want to approach this problem. I definitely think we should, for the next spec meeting on the next week, we should at least open an issue stating the problems with the current proposal and trying to like maybe to propose some other syntax for that.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to propose using JSON pointer and maybe JSON pointer with a couple of additional syntactic sugar on top if this is really needed.
Yeah.
But the JSON part is definitely not the way to go in this particular case, and it will be super hard to implement. Meaning, like you have really to implement the JSON part from the scratch. So,
but I want to ensure that we are solving this problem. See, okay, I hope we are doing the same thing in our problem. We are using unstructured API, right? So in the unstructured API, the way to set nested field, nested slide set, where is that API? Yeah, see here, set nested field slice. Let's take this example. See, the fields are expected like individual strings, right? A variadic argument. So that means, can I deterministic? My question is, can we derive this value in a deterministic way? I mean, deterministically resolve the fields from that whatever expression, whether it is JSON path or what is the other one you mentioned, JSON pointer, right? Is that possible? So that I could make use the this unstructured.
Again, you're done in the business of implementing your own JSON parser. So there is currently any JSON parser available on the market. They use their own data structure, so they don't work on the top of the unstructured thing, which is just Kubernetes thing. So you would need to implement a JSON parsers on top of that kind of structure. Basically.
Yeah, I got that part. My point is that ultimately I want to get a fields in a slice of strings so that I could use it. I don't mind to use it like an unstructured test, but can I deterministically derive that dot separated string so that I could pass it as an argument. Even if I'm
Yeah,
using
but dot separated thing. If we say it's just dot separated thing, then this is not a JSON path. It's just a subset of JSON path. So
correct.
we could modify that, and we can in the spec specify that we support in that particular fields just a subset of JSON paths, standard, and we define exactly what we support. That's another way to do it. Yeah, but we need to kind of come up with some idea, so which is like easily implementable, and that we can use existing JSON parser or something else.
Yeah, so what I'm saying, one of the criteria that I am looking forward to, whatever the what is that format, is that I want to get a exact fields separated format ultimately. Even if you're, I don't know, I don't know about JSON pointer. This is the RFC, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll take a look at and see if there is a mechanism to derive the fields in a deterministic way. So that's if that problem is solved through JSON pointer, I think JSON pointer should work. So I think that's one of the criteria that I'm looking forward. We should be able to deterministically resolve the fields from that expression, Okay. Apart from
Okay.
that, there are a few other issues. I don't know whether it should I just mention that. I already reported it. Anyway.
Yeah. So how are we going to proceed with this? So shall we? So we have a kind of agreement that there's an issue with that, and so
Yes.
shall we come up with some issue which we're gonna then discuss on the follow up on the next week spec meeting?
Yeah.
So we should come up with some kind of document and create the issue out of that, where we can state all the problems with the current proposal, and then to propose something else.
Yeah, and you asked about this use case. I can point to that. There is an IBM operator. Okay, I think it was there. Yeah, here it is mentioned. Not here. Programming language somewhere. Yeah, there is something called. 1 second. I remember Scott mentioned it somewhere. There is an operator which is actually, it's called component operator or something like that. So they have this kind of intermediate. It's not the final destination of the container or volume or anything like that, but they keep it in a CR, custom resource, and they have another kind of operator that actually takes that value from there and put into the final deployment or wherever it is. So they have some use cases. That was the reason that a thing got added into the spec. Yeah.
Okay, if you can dig out the link and put it in our document agenda document, that would be great.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
cool. Okay, let's think on like you and me during this and the following week, and to come up with some text and to create an issue, and so that this could be discussed on the spec hole. How about that?
Yeah. Okay. Steven, do you want to bring that topic up? Again, we can do this documentation afterwards, if you'd like.
Yeah, sure. So I basically wanted to speak a little bit about the need of building a demo or a sample application that is easy for people to pick up and to play with. We have few things already, but I believe that having a sample application, maybe based on Pet Clinic, or maybe based on another sample where there is one service and an application doing the binding and showing off how it works, would be beneficial to us. It would be beneficial to explain the value of service binding to the developers, but it will also be beneficial when we highlight some of the use cases into our user guide. So
this is the application or the operator? Which one?
So the two, in fact. So that's the issue that we have, is that we need an operator or a service that is compatible with service binding and providing the binding metadata, so that we can create the custom resource and show off how it works and how the developer can consume the binding metadata in its application.
So that means we need both the operator, the backing service operator, as well as the end user application, right?
No, one of them, like some good example, either like them using, like, Seven, correct me if I understand this incorrectly, but you want to have an example, having a service and app, and now if the service is provisioned by the operator, fine, but if it's not provisioned by the operator and it still works fine, that's also okay, right?
We should have the two, yeah, indeed. But in the demo, probably using an operator that is available on Artifact Hub would be fine. So the two use case that you mentioned, Predrag, leveraging an operator or just provisioning a service, the two are important.
But they to me, like, looked the one actually at the end, like, even if you use the operator to provision service and then bind it to application, or you provision service by yourself without the operator and bind it to application, they're the same. Just the mean how you provision the service is a bit different.
So it's really a matter about what is the complexity that we show to the developer when they have to alter the service or not. So ideally, we don't want the developer to touch the service and to add by themselves the binding metadata. And in this case, that means that we need to have an operator that is compliant with the spec.
Yes and no. Like in a way, like the developer needs to create some service resource, whether it's that's kind of custom resource, and some service operator watches and creates the real deployment. That's one thing, but you can also see a scenario where a developer provisions directly deployment containing MySQL database, for example. So from the developer point of view, he needs to create some sorts of resource describing the service. And I'm totally with you that that's the only thing that the developer needs to do. So all other tweakings should be left to the service binding operator. Yeah. But therefore, like, if we don't have at the moment, as of today, a proper operator which will provision services which are bindable, but we can come up with some like regular deployment which are then bindable, we could start using that. And of course, as soon as we have some operator which is like spec compliant, then we can start demoing that as well.
Yeah, actually, I am also currently looking to a similar problem because of the next topic that I added. I wanted to discuss the same thing because I was exploring a more realistic, backing service operator and some application that I could demo. So one place that I reached out to was that with see this example. Anyway, since this is somewhat related, I'll just mention it here. So I was looking at this example and I made it able to make it work. And in this case, it's a WordPress with a MySQL as a backend. And in this, but there is no operator or anything. What they use is they have some persistent volume, and then there is a service and the MySQL, which is again a typical deployment. Yeah, this is just MySQL. And there is another deployment for the application side, and where the values are getting injected. So the only two value that we need to bind is here, the host name and then the password. I think the username, I think they're keeping it root or something default. So this was something that I was considering, But Roderick suggested me to look at a more real world framework. So actually I started exploring something right now. I spent yesterday some time to look at the MySQL. But one of the things that I've started saying is that either the I'm looking at the operator-hub.io, okay? Either the operator is very highly, alpha stage or something. Otherwise, the operator is, very advanced production grade kind of things. So for example, this Percona one looks like a very real world operator, somebody using to run. I think this is for PostgreSQL. Yeah. So like that. So that means, and it is setting up is not easy. Even if I go through the documentation, even setting up on Minikube or they have very okay, the spec I opened at that CRD, there are almost almost 100 attributes in that thing itself. So it's really scary to look at that kind of configuration to set up something. And I'm very sure this is a real world operator because used by real applications in the world. So this complexity is something that I'm finding it. I don't know whether it would be good for us and a good example, or should we go for a simple deployment like that I was pointing out? Or other option is like we could create our own operator. We have something. Sometimes back, Pavel worked on something that operator. I think we were using it for testing, but like we removed those from our test cases, right? Drag. We don't use that.
Yes.
Okay.
But is this really the only Postgres operator on the operator?
No. There are many. Actually, I send see this many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6. So right now I'm exploring this Crunchy, PostgreSQL, and this one. Couple of them are already rejected. One of them looks very matured, but looks like that need a license key and all. So I think that would be a bit.
Okay, let's kind of wrap up the relation, and we're gonna know better if there is any operator which might be used or not. Like
the other alternative is that we contribute to an operator as well. So maybe we take
but like this is definitely something. But let's come up with something which can be immediately used in the user guide. So some kind of example.
And do you remember that there is Thomas Kral from Odo who has been building a demo with Spring Pet Clinic. I need to reach out with him because I think he was using the MySQL operator.
Yeah, like let's connect us on this. Yeah,
Pet Clinic, right?
It was Spring Pet Clinic. Yeah.
Clinic with the MySQL backend.
So Stefan, like if you have a preference for that example, is that the Pet Clinic application the top preferred thing? No, seriously.
It's a trap because at the same time I think it will highlight properly the use case, but at the same time Pet Clinic is, in my opinion, sometimes a little bit too simplistic as well, and we should try to do demos with things that are a little bit more real than Pet Clinic. But the user guide,
demos, yes, but like for quick start, show that this application really talks to the database and the data are persistent and what's not. So that should be okay, right?
For the getting start, I think that works. Yeah.
Okay, but what about this WordPress thing? This also I was able to make it work, but the only thing is there is no real operator, but rather it's just a deployment. Is that? But still, we could demonstrate, the bindings happening.
Yeah, but it's WordPress. Nobody is going to pull the source code of WordPress, and you need to be able to show off how you work. We need to look at the persona that we are trying to engage with an application developer who is looking at connecting his application and his source code to a service that is running somewhere and that is already deployed. And if we take WordPress, you will have something that is a little bit different because there's less application developers that are looking at WordPress and they will see that as a big application, while Pet Clinic is something that is a little bit simpler, that you can understand and dive into very simply, and that is still close to the work that somebody could be doing. So I think Pet Clinic in this matter is a little bit more is better suited for what we want to do. Because
Yeah, I remember Pavel has created another is it a Node.js app, right? I hope we remove even that also from our testing now. But is that a that's a simple application? I remember that, but it was a working, with some web UI, everything. Even it has some what they call ingress or route setup. So that means we could see a real URL, everything. I don't remember the link, but is that that means if not Pet Clinic, can we go for something that similar? But it is kind of it has all the what you expect in a basic CRUD,
we can look at that, yes. But I think with Pet Clinic we should be able to do it because the Odo team has been building that demo.
They demo out, right? Yeah. Okay.
Do you want me to connect you with Thomas?
Well, I can also write an email. No worries. I mean, if you, if you want, like, please make an email. But I can also do that as well.
Yeah. So, Predrag, I think this was the same kind of similar discussion that I was expecting with respect to the documentation part. Like in the can I take the documentation and show that we discuss that? Okay, let me share my thought. Okay, this is something that I was already trying out. So initially, before discussing with Predrag, my attempt was like no real world application. I was just creating a custom CRD, which you could see like a raw, that CRD, and then I will create a custom resource, and then the corresponding secret. This was the kind of approach that I was taking up. My idea was that this is, even though this is too simplistic, but at the same time, it's easy to explain what is happening. That was the reason I started as part of this exercise. A backing service and application is required. The backing service is a minimal custom resource to help to understand the concept easily, and that's where I kind of diverted based on feedback now. So I want to hear your thought on this. Maybe Sri, if you have something to share, please.
Just to share with the others what we discussed yesterday. Having the custom CRDs and things is good, but not for the quick start section. So if I am as a user and just want to see, so how can actually I like deploy and use this, I will be really like super shocked when I see all these kind of resources. So as a user, I would like to see some application connected to some service, and really possibly in just a couple of lines I need to copy and paste, really like kubectl something else, and then suddenly I have my application running and connected to the database. And then later on we need this kind of CRD stuff, and in the like when we start to explain what are the options to expose your binding data and so on, but not, I definitely quick start to me is not the right place for this. Okay, but then let's hear what Stevan and Sri think.
No, I'm with you. It's good points.
Okay,
So I mean, we can use a fast approach.
Yeah, I got that. Sri, you have something to say, or are you also want a realistic application?
For me, a quick start is just a quick start. I am here to, I'm here in the document that can help me really help me quick start. I have to get it done up and running in a matter of minutes. I don't want to read too much about concepts or additional references, this, that. I just want to get it done and set it up. For that, what is it that I need? Any prerequisites, any important things, notes, limitations, along with this procedure, very important one to that can set me up and running. That is what I will have in a quick start guide. Additional resources, if they are interested, I can give a link to a core concept or understanding part or concept part if they are related. Any other resources, but the main meat is about how to get me up and running quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And probably I'll have a very light-hearted introduction saying that what is it and why you are doing. What is the purpose of this documentation? Who is the audience? And what is this document intended for? So I will set that intention very clearly in the first paragraph. Then it is the meat of the document. Not too
Okay.
much content. They just read and quickly they are starting. They are not investing too much time in reading. That is what the meat should be about, if that helps you.
Okay. Yeah, I think all of us are in kind of agreement, even though this is what I was started with. I'm also okay to change the approach to use more, uh, yeah, realistic application for the quick start. So yeah, but at the same time, I have opinion that, like Parag also mentioned, in the subsequent sections, which is more like a reference or manual, right? We could use much more simpler uh, this kind of resources there to explain the things.
I mean, you have to. At some points, you really need to use some kind of CRD to show like where you're going to put a notation or descriptors and what's not. But this really comes in a like follow up sections where people want to dig in and to understand. For example, service provider, they need to understand how to expose the data, and you need to tell them, to start telling them about CRD and how CRD look like and some example CRD and base and so on. So definitely this content is not really what you did was not wasting of time. So simply you're going to use it in other sections.
Okay. Yeah. So I think then I can continue with that, exploring that various PostgreSQL operator which I mentioned, and let me see if I can make it work one of them. Otherwise, can we, take up that other PostgreSQL operator that we used to maintain, which we removed from our test case? Is that also okay?
Is it available on Operator Hub?
I don't know whether it was published to post. From Red Hat. No, I think it is not. No. Oh yeah, no, this is something else. Yeah, no, it is not published here. Shall we publish it here? Is it okay?
What do you want to publish?
I mean, that PostgreSQL operator that we developed.
No,
No. Like this is just a fork and really quickly hack. So let's see if we can use something which is already available and managed by somebody on the Operator Hub. And then if really we cannot use anything there, let's like talk again and see what we can do.
Okay, sure.
So it would be much better than for us if we are able to do a pull request to an existing operator that is available on Operator Hub than doing a fork of the operator and publishing another one, because that will be we will have to maintain it, and that's another effort.
Yeah, actually, these operators are really matured operators. I was spending some time, but I could see that there's a real world operators which people are using. So if we could make it demo with that one, that would be awesome, definitely. But only thing is that it's all feeling much complex. Some of them require license key. You see, for example, this was the run that required license key. Yeah, so I don't think you need. But yeah, and this one I was currently exploring right now. The Crunchy doesn't look like any license key, but I can see this again very matured and active project. So with some commercial backing, I guess. So yeah, let's try out one of this, and if I can, we can make
what is this? nine like operators to try it out. Not bad.
Yeah. There are quite a few. Yeah, some of them are very dumb also. I have checked something. Yeah.
It might be interesting to do it on the Crunchy one, because I know we have some contact with them.
This one.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah, I'm exploring right now this one. This looks like, see, even the capability level they've kept it as autopilot. That means I'm very sure it must be very matured. Yeah, operator. Yeah, but the only thing is that, again, it's not so easy to set up or anything. Again, so anyway. So I'll spend some time today and I'll get back tomorrow. Let me see how much whether I can make it work or not.
But
Yeah,
And
just a quick confirmation. Maybe you can replace that content elsewhere and shelf it if it is, if you want to remove, if you think it is too advanced, but do not delete it. It's a nice content. Like how Predrag said, we will use it for the advanced part. We can shelf it for those topics, right? Do not delete it. We've done good work there.
yeah, sure. I definitely that we could reuse. Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, move it elsewhere.
Yeah.
But it's definitely good that you are. It's definitely good that you are picking up on this effort on the documentation.
Yeah.
Very glad to see that.
Yeah. That is a current focus right now for me, the documentation for this one. I hope I work with the Sri on this.
Yeah,
coming days.
and feel free to ping me if you need a review as well.
Yeah.
I can be your proofreader.
Okay.
Yeah, same
Definitely.
here. And you can set up a meeting with me, like how we discussed this week or I guess last week, and we can talk about it and then add it to the reviews. Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Anything else? So user realistic operator.
I think we are good for today. Is there any other topic somebody wants to bring?
Okay. There was something else that I brought up in the channel regarding that language specific APIs. So I thanks Steven for sharing that other document from that middleware folks are working on. I can see the one, so I'd like to know whether you have any input about that. Let me open that issue. Yeah, this is the issue I created, and I can see okay, not that one, sorry, this is something else. Yeah, even okay, how to pronounce his name? Wojciech, right? Yeah, he's also in the opinion that the spec could provide community could provide some kind of mini SDK for each popular language or library. I know that Red Hat also already working on the Node.js, Java, and maybe other language that you mentioned. So shall we sponsor one of the challenge? For example, I try to create it is not that hard, by the way. The application from a library perspective. See, what really required is that just read that file system and get all the bindings as a list of dictionary in Python. Maybe in Go it could be like a written as a slice of maps. So it is not that difficult to implement. The only thing is that there should be some proper maintenance, somebody working on that. And I took some effort to, but it was very easy for me to create a Python library. Of course, I had a lot of experience with Python to do this kind of a library. So it is the whole implementation, maybe few lines of code. Yeah, see, only this much, including all the documentation, everything. So, but only thing I can only do it for Python or Go, because other language I am not comfortable. So my question is, can we, and I don't know whether it's a good idea to keep it in my personal, this is in my ByGeom organization, right? One option could be, now this spec is going towards Kubernetes. I don't know whether to create small repository for each library within Kubernetes is really necessary, or if some other organization, GitHub organization, and whether my question is, can we sponsor also this kind of yeah, we are already working on Java and all, this kind of effort. I just want to hear your thoughts.
I personally think that that kind of logic, whatever we do to make application frameworks, the service binding compatible, needs to live within those frameworks. So imagine that you want to have the Spring Boot or Spring framework service binding compatible. So there must be some code like a change living there, because it's their part. So there is no, I mean, those kind of compatibility layers should be added to the individual frameworks, say Quarkus, say Spring, say Play framework in Java, or like in in Python world, like for web applications, is Twister? Is still Twister? So something like
yeah,
that.
there are so many. Django is another one.
Django. So we would need to actually add relevant pieces to those frameworks, so that actually when you have your application, you increase the version of your, say, Django framework, and boom, your application is service binding compatible.
Yeah.
That
But in still having a kind of what do you call kind of guidelines or something would be great. That's what I was thinking. So I sent a user guide with that intent, explain, because I noticed that one of the implementation, that Node.js, that is again from, I think, Red Hat middleware team working on the Node.js. I already raised issue and closed it. Their API, I'm not that proficient with JavaScript, but their API was bit confusing for me. When I looked at, I thought that they are not supporting provider-based lookup, because they only supporting. But he corrected me. The developer corrected me. They're saying that it already support, but they're using a different terminology altogether. It's called client. I'm not able to make out that fully yet. So that means there is no consistency. Now, if I look at the other implementation, that is. What was that? It's called
Yeah,
Quarkus.
but Baiju, when you speak about consistency on these things, it also comes down to the consistency of the frameworks, of the language, and there are some good practices for that. And
probably correct.
There's always a certain level of balance to be taken when you speak about consistency in this approach. And keep in mind that maybe the developer who is going to do service binding with Node.js will probably never do service binding in Python, because he is not a Python developer. So that consistency between the language is, in my opinion, not so much necessary. What is more important is that if we do some implementation or some libraries to more easily leverage the service binding, it has to be very close to the language and to the platform and the framework that it is targeting, because that's where you need to develop the affinity with the developer skills, and also the good practices of the technology. So that's why I'm a little bit mixed on this.
Yeah, but still, I guess, for example, another thing I noticed, I was going through the Quarkus one. Okay, I don't see they even consider the provider attribute at all, because maybe they are not recognizing, or maybe they parked it for future. I don't know. But I noticed that they only support the type value, not really the provider value. In their I gone through the Java code also to see how it's implemented, and I can see the lookup is only supporting type here. See, the binding has a type file indicating it is PostgreSQL database, but there is no support for the provider. So that means, let's say, I hope that's what I try to explain in the document that I worked on. Let me just explain this part, so it will become easy. So the provider is given support because the type could be, let's say, if the type is MySQL, the provider could be MariaDB, Oracle, Bitnami, AWS RDS, or any of these kind of things, right? So that means if some developers want a more deterministic way of identifying which exact binding need to be consumed from the application, that provider is a helpful feature that is recommended by the spec. And it's not a mandate, it is a recommendation. So that means it is completely okay to ignore it from a spec perspective. But I don't know whether people are really aware of this kind of features provided by the spec, or maybe they just so that's why having some kind of SDK, or that's why I thought that maybe at least in the form of documentation, user guide, this is going to help them to be aware. I just
yeah, and this is a good point, Biju, and really what you did like yesterday with this small Python library or code snippet you wrote is an excellent add-on or a part of which can come into our user guide. So we have a section about applications and how applications can consume the bindings, and this is a great, for example, code snippet you can put in that section saying, hey, if you're on Python, so this is you can use the bindings, and then you can have this story about types and providers and what's
exactly. Yeah, it's definitely something that we need to do. It's the next step after the user guide. It's
no, but that's the part of the user guide. Like there is a section on there.
Yeah.
And then you can go to, and it's even better when we have this section. Then we can go to various frameworks and say, guys, here is what you need to consider when you need to write some modification in your framework to be like spec compatible. So take a look at this, and so on. So it's way more convincing than just trying to do some like one solution for all. I mean, this is not going to work. So we are not in that business, and we don't have even like manpower to support that. Your like Python thing is definitely good to put in our section, the user guide, and maybe if we come up with some JavaScript code or something, even better to have a couple of languages covered. But this kind of discussion, you want to have this in this PR about types, MySQL and Bitnami, it belongs to that user guide, definitely.
Okay, but still I don't like keeping this in my personal project. That's something whether can we keep it in a common GitHub organization.
Yeah, but
as I said, this case, copy to the user guide.
No, this should be a library that people could consume, right? I pushed already into the pipe. By the way, every project they must be having their own some kind of Maven or package servers. So that should be published through that system, and then only people will take it seriously, right?
Yes, Baiju, my concern with this is that how are we going to keep up with this?
Yeah, that's also who is going to take a maintenance part.
It's nice to push it, but if you are not going to sign up because so we have some work to do to evangelize about service binding. We have some work to do to reach out to service providers, to the frameworks, and in fact, when you do those kind of things, you also sign up for activities which are very important, but are we really ready for that, and to put the level of support that will be necessary to push that a little bit further? Because if you did the library but then nobody is using it, it's also some effort that is a waste. So let's be cautious as well on this, even if it's cool, and it will be very beneficial to anybody who is coming to the documentation on service binding.
Okay.
But we can speak once we have so keep your ideas and your thoughts written down, because those are excellent ideas and definitely things that we have to provide a solution for. But let's stay focused for now on the user guide.
Yeah.
And once we have the user guide, we can look at those different opportunities and how we can do a community reach out to engage maybe with Node.js, maybe with other frameworks and things like that, and push a little bit that a bit more. But if we don't have user guide, people will say, okay, so there is this library, but I don't know. I don't know how to use it, and I don't understand what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm going to focus only on this one, but that's all came up during discussion. I was really happy to see some people actually, started implementing that one. So I thought of taking a look at that. Yeah. Okay, that's all from my side. If I think it's how we are doing with the time, it's almost. Yeah.
We're way beyond.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, it was a super great discussion.
Okay, who want to do what is it called? I mean, notes taking and yeah, moderator for next meeting. Okay, I can sign up myself or no? I can copy paste it, I guess. Okay. Anyway, this is a small commentary. I'll continue to do it in this one for next time week also. Thanks for.
Thank you, Bijou.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Bijou.
Thank you all.
Bye.
You stop the recording. Up. Okay. Bye bye.